Welcome to another episode of Eat, Smoke, Drink. Today I am reviewing, I always say it, but it's a special day for one of my reviews. Every review is a special one actually, unless I tell you it's crap, then it's not. But today's a special day because I'm reviewing the Douglas Laing Springbank 22-year-old special release bottling. Now, as you know, I am a big fan of Springbank. I spend my time trying to hunt down weird and wonderful rare bottlings of Springbank, as well as the standard ones, of course. But let me tell you a little bit about this. So Springbank as a whole, when you buy the distillery bottlings, when you buy the 12 and 15 especially, which is the most common ones, they're usually heavily sherry influenced. When you buy the 18, you're getting a blend of bourbon, sherry, and sometimes a rum cask on that as well, but generally bourbon and sherry heavy as well. When you get the 21, once again, the blend of barrels is different every year. I'm not sure about the 25 so much. Hopefully I'll get to review a 25-year-old standard bottling soon, but this one here is unusual because it is a refill bourbon's hogshead. Okay, so a refill bourbon hogshead. So not sure why they use a refill bourbon hogshead. So obviously the barrel must have been quite giving, so they use a refill hogshead. But it's quite unusual because it doesn't have obviously that sherry influence. So let's get tasting. This is one of 202 bottles at 53.9%. So, you know, not too high a percentage. Let's get nosing. It is very forward. It is very forward. Oh, and just while you're wondering, I'm using my premium blender's glass. I like to use that for the premium whiskies that I review. Very clear bourbon influence right there. Sickly coconut syrup, vanilla, but I'm also getting white pepper and a little bit of ginger spice in there as well. I'd say candied ginger. Let it just breathe a little bit. Look at from the nosing so far, it doesn't have that characteristic of the Springbank. It doesn't have that funkiness. It doesn't have that dunnage warehousing. There could be a few reasons for that, and that is unconfirmed. I don't know. If you know the answer, please tell me. But one of my theories is that they actually either took the barrel straight from Springbank on fill and put it into their own warehouses, or they took their own barrel there, fill it up into the warehouses, whatever, but the aging could have been done in a different warehouse of Springbank. Springbank aging and Springbank warehousing does have its very distinct flavors in there, so maybe this one was warehoused somewhere else, because it doesn't have that funky, dingy dunnage, fungal smell at all. It doesn't have that. In fact, it's actually quite clean, quite light. There's a slight fieriness to it. I would say peppermint. Definitely peppermint, a little bit of pine cone resin, pine needles, a slight herbalness to it as well. I'd say a fresh tarragon, a slight aniseed. Delicious nose, but if someone was to give it to you and say, hey, nose this, you wouldn't be able to pick a Springbank. I can pick a Springbank a mile away, but with this one, I just can't. Has a slight creaminess to it, but the peppermint is strong, the ginger, candy ginger is strong, vanilla strong. So I'm thinking this was aged somewhere else, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got a feeling it's aged somewhere else. Nonetheless, it's a Springbank, so hey. I'm also getting some dried apricot in there. You know, that dryness of a dried apricot, that kind of chalkiness. And I'm getting a slight floral sensation on that as well. So let's get tasting. Delicious. Definitely quite a fiery Springbank, but delicious. Quite fiery, quite forward, quite confronting. The refill hogshead definitely did not mellow it out as much as your sherry cask would. Sherry cask tend to mellow out spirits more because the flavor is quite strong, and it does mask some fieriness as well. But this is very fiery from the get-go. Straight away, forward, fiery. The texture is quite chewy. The texture is quite pronounced. Very waxy. A little oily, but very waxy. Almost like you know, like when you eat candle wax and you've got it lingering in your mouth. We've all been there. Have you not eaten candle wax before? I have. There's no flintiness. There's no fungal. There's no fusty. There's no funk. None of that. Which is weird to me, because Springbank, I expect that. I'm getting a slight bitterness. I'm getting a floral flavor and a slight bitterness, followed by the menthol and the peppermint right in the back end. Definitely apricot. I would say an unripe apricot, a slight bitterness of an unripe apricot. That dryness, that chalkiness. It's not very sweet, but it's not savory. It's got a sour note to it, a little bit of lemon rind, a little citrus. The herbaceousness is gone. I'm not getting too much of the aniseed and licorice. A little bit, but not much. But it is quite a fiery beast, especially for a Springbank. Springbanks usually are quite palatable, but also a little bit bizarre. The finish is long. Don't get me wrong, it is a delicious whiskey. But my conclusion: would I buy this again for the price that it's worth? Would I recommend this to you? No, I would not, actually. Actually, I would not. In the current market out there, there's about maybe 500 to 800 USD, depending on where you're buying the taxes, but I'd just say 750 USD because it's quite rare now. Is it worth it? No, it is not. It is not worth it, in my opinion. I think that it is a little bit overpriced. The Springbank fever has gotten to it. It is not a hallmark Springbank, which in itself is interesting, but I wanted interesting Springbank, not interesting because it's not quite Springbank, if that makes a little sense. Maybe it doesn't. Believe it or not, this is my first dram as well. But it's not quite the Springbank that I was hoping for. Cigar pairings, I think it's fiery enough to withstand pretty much most cigars out there, and I would say that a sweet Maduro cigar would be quite nice. So there's something sweet and oily because it is quite fiery, it is quite spicy and peppery, and the menthol is right there. So it is quite a robust whiskey. So all in all, I wouldn't launch 1,000 ships or invade a small nation for it like I would most premium Springbanks, but it is a pretty cool experience. So until next time, make sure you hit subscribe, hit that bell. I have some more kick-ass bottles to review. Cheers and eat, smoke, drink.